Hello, I'm Robin and I'm a normal alcoholic. What are the warning signs of alcoholism? The other day I was listening to someone talk about how before they realised they had a problem with alcohol, that they went through various phases and stages, they're similar stages to most of us go through. And the different things that we have denial about, or the different excuses that we make for our drinking. And the one in particular that stood out to me was how when they went to their doctor and got referred to a psychiatrist, the psychiatrist said, "You've got depression," and put them on antidepressants. They thought, great, that's why I'm so, that's why I feel so bad. That's why I drink so much. I'm not an alcoholic, just need to take the antidepressants. And the reason that stood out to me is because that's exactly what happened to me. I remember going to my GP. I remember him referring me to the local drug and alcohol centre. I remember thinking that I wasn't really an alcoholic. I didn't go to a psychiatrist at that stage. He just said, go to the local drug and alcohol centre, but we'll give you antidepressants. So for about, I think it was probably about 2-3 years, I was on SSRIs. I was thinking that the reason that I drank so much was just because I had depression, and all I had to do was sort out the depression side and the alcohol stuff would sort itself out. But this is ignoring the fact that alcohol is a depressant. It got me thinking about the other warning signs that I had years before. The other things that I thought were the reason I was depressed or had anxiety, was having panic attacks. They were the reasons. It wasn't that I was an alcoholic. It couldn't be. Alcohol's normal. Everyone drinks. It's something else. Don't make me stop drinking. I love drinking too much. But one of the warning signs was when I was in my early 20s. I started having panic attacks at work. And at that point, I remember going to my doctor, explaining it, and he said, right, here you go, here's some diazepam. If you have a panic attack, or if you feel you're likely to have one of these pills. So I did, and that pack went very quickly. I think there was only like 8 in there. I remember going back for more. But then after the second pack, I was like, I think subconsciously I knew that they were just a stopgap. That I couldn't just keep on going back and having diazepam every time I felt panicked. In reality, what it was is that I was hungover. My nerves were wrecked because I'd had such a heavy session, and I was more likely to have a panic attack because that's what happens. It's the way your physiology works. Now, I mean, yes, there's an element of issues of mental health in there. I wasn't fully dependent on alcohol, but it was the early stages of withdrawal triggering panic attacks. I think around the same time there was another one. There was a period of a couple of weeks when my drinking sprees would go OTT. When it got to the kind of peak of that night out, I'd be in such a state, I'd get incredibly emotional, and I ended up calling the Samaritans a few times because I just didn't know what to do with myself. Again, this all happened. I felt so low, so depressed, so worthless. I didn't know what to do. It made me drink more. It meant the hangovers were worse. It meant I was having panic attacks. I think it would have been great if back then I could have just recognized the alcohol problem and dealt with it, but I wasn't ready. If someone had even spelt it out in black and white, I wouldn't have been able to deal with it back then. I had to have a lot more research. I had to go through a lot more pain. I had to go through years of just despair to finally be ready to put it behind me. Because back then alcohol was the solution to everything. If I felt bad, have a drink. If I felt good, have a drink, you'll feel even better. If I was bored, felt nothing, have a drink. To me, alcohol was the solution, not the problem. Another warning sign was at work. I started drinking too much coffee because I wasn't sleeping well. I've always had trouble getting to sleep. So I'd end up drinking a lot of coffee to keep me awake at work. But then I'd have so much coffee in my system, I wouldn't be able to get to sleep. I'd end up drinking in the evenings, using the alcohol to help me get to sleep. But what I didn't realize at that time was that if you've got alcohol in your system, then your brain doesn't properly settle into the, I don't know if it's the alpha or the beta sleep. But anyway, your brain doesn't properly deep sleep. So the alcohol will knock you out, so you fall asleep, but you don't actually get the same kind of recovery or regeneration, whatever it is that you need to feel awake the next day. So rather than stop drinking in the evenings to knock myself out, I decided to just cut out the caffeine. I went from drinking, 5 to 8 cups of coffee a day to having no coffee. I just thought, I'd rather feel tired and not have the coffee and fall asleep slightly better than just be stuck on that. So I gave up coffee when I was like 22, 23. Took me another 13 years to realize actually it was the alcohol that was the problem. So what I'm getting at is that all these things, I use them as excuses. My warning signs, which had I looked at the situation differently, I would have said, you got a drinking problem, deal with that. You're drinking too much, it's making you depressed. You're drinking too much, you're not sleeping. You're drinking too much, you're having panic attacks in the mornings. Instead, I was like, I'm going to take antidepressants. I'm going to take anti-panic medication. I'm going to get drunk and end up calling the Samaritans. I'm going to say I've got depression and I'm going to cut out the coffee. All of that rather than dealing with the drink. So you might have some of these and it might be impossible for you to see that that's the problem right now. But maybe down the line with some hindsight, you'll see your warning signs. You'll see the things that you were making excuses or that you were using as excuses to keep drinking. If you got anything from this, think it helps someone else, do the clicky stuff, like, subscribe. But for now,